What if the very thing you chase for pleasure is secretly training you to be ignored, disrespected, and replaced? How men unknowingly destroy their value, not through failure, but through indulgence. Listen carefully, because this is where most men misunderstand power. Desire itself is not the enemy. Hunger is not weakness. What destroys men is desire without discipline, because undisciplined desire does not express strength, it exposes emptiness. A man who cannot govern his impulses will never govern his circumstances, and the world can sense this long before he speaks. When a man chases pleasure as relief, not as reward, he trains himself to seek escape instead of expansion. Each indulgence becomes a quiet confession that his reality is something he must flee from. He tells no one this out loud, yet his posture, his tone, his patience all begin to betray him. Discipline is not about denial, it is about direction. Without direction, desire wanders, and a wandering desire eventually drags the man behind it. Observe how quickly desire turns into routine when discipline is absent. The first indulgence feels powerful because it is rare. The second feels justified. The third feels necessary. Soon the man is no longer choosing pleasure, he is maintaining a habit. Habits shape identity, and identity shapes how the world responds. This is how a man slowly becomes invisible while believing he is indulging his freedom. Men speak of confidence, but confidence is built on self-command. A man who cannot delay gratification radiates urgency, and urgency is the opposite of authority. Authority moves slowly. Authority waits. Authority knows it does not need to prove itself in every moment. The disciplined man enters a room already complete. The undisciplined man enters hoping the room will complete him. This is why desire without discipline dissolves mystery. Mystery is born from restraint. When a man consumes everything immediately, there is nothing left behind him but appetite. No tension, no gravity, no edge. He becomes readable, and what can be read can be predicted. What can be predicted can be controlled. This is not philosophy, this is mechanics. Watch how such men speak about women, about pleasure, about life. Their language becomes repetitive. Their humor dulls. Their eyes search instead of observe. They believe they are participating in desire, but in truth, they are being processed by it. Every uncontrolled impulse tightens the leash, and soon the leash no longer needs to be pulled. Machiavelli understood that power begins with mastery of the self. A prince who cannot resist indulgence becomes contemptible, not because indulgence is immoral, but because it signals weakness to those watching. The modern man is no different. Society does not punish him openly, it simply stops responding. Respect fades, attraction cools, opportunities close quietly. Discipline creates polarity. It separates the man who chooses from the man who reacts. Desire sharpened by discipline becomes force. Desire without discipline becomes noise. One builds empires. The other fills time. And the tragedy is that the undisciplined man often believes he is living fully, unaware that every impulse he obeys is slowly erasing the intensity he once had. This is the silent trade being made every day: short-term pleasure for long-term dullness, immediate release for permanent loss of edge. The man feels relaxed, but the world feels nothing toward him. And when a man no longer provokes reaction, admiration, or resistance, he has already begun to disappear. Access kills value, and this truth governs everything from empires to intimacy. What is easily obtained is never respected, not because people are cruel, but because the human mind is designed to measure worth through resistance. When there is no barrier, there is no meaning. When there is no cost, there is no memory. A man who does not understand this law unknowingly dismantles his own presence. Consider how men once earned access. Time was required, risk was involved, reputation mattered. A man had to bring something to the table before he was invited to sit. That process was not an obstacle, it was a filter. It refined men. It forced growth. It demanded competence. When access becomes immediate, the filter disappears, and with it disappears the pressure that creates strength. A man who is granted access without effort begins to mistake permission for power. He believes that because doors open, he must be important. But open doors do not signal value, they signal availability. True value does not chase entry, it is pursued. When a man no longer needs to improve to gain access, he stops improving altogether, and stagnation follows with brutal precision. The danger is subtle. Easy access feels like victory in the moment. It flatters the ego. It convinces a man he has bypassed the rules. But the rules have not been bypassed. They have been reversed. The man is no longer the chooser, he is the consumer, and consumers are replaceable by design. What can be consumed without effort can be discarded without thought. Women, like all intelligent observers, read patterns. They sense when a man has not earned his position. They feel when his presence carries no cost. A man who arrives without effort carries no weight. His attention is not prized because it is abundant. His absence is not felt because it changes nothing. Access without effort turns a man into background noise. Machiavelli warned that generosity without strategy breeds contempt. The same applies to access without resistance. When everything is available, nothing is sacred. When intimacy is handed over freely, it loses its power to bond, to challenge, to transform. The man who receives too easily never learns how to hold, protect, or lead. This is why effort is not a burden, it is a signal. It announces that a man values himself enough to demand standards. It tells the world that entry into his life requires alignment, not convenience. Without effort, desire rots into entitlement, and entitlement is deeply unattractive because it carries no gratitude, no awe, no respect. A man who lives on easy access becomes addicted to shortcuts. He avoids friction, he avoids tension, he avoids growth. Yet friction is what sharpens identity. Tension is what creates presence. Growth is what sustains attraction. Remove these, and the man becomes smooth, soft, and forgettable, even while believing he is winning. The most dangerous consequence is not loss of respect from others, but loss of respect from himself. When a man knows he did not earn what he received, his confidence becomes fragile. He performs instead of stands. He overcompensates, he fears being exposed. This fear leaks into his behavior, making him controlling, insecure, or detached. Power does not come from access, it comes from scarcity created by self-respect. When a man treats his time, energy, and attention as valuable, others do too. When he gives them away freely, he teaches the world to do the same. Easy access rewires the social hierarchy quietly, placing the man lower each time he accepts what he did not deserve, until one day he realizes that doors still open, but no one notices who walked through them. Status is never announced, it is detected. Before a man speaks, before he explains, before he performs, he has already been read. Women do not wait for resumes or confessions to decide how a man ranks himself. They observe how he moves through silence, how he reacts to uncertainty, how comfortable he is when nothing is being offered to him. Words come last, presence comes first. A man can rehearse lines, polish appearance, even borrow confidence for a moment, but status leaks through behavior. It shows in whether he seeks approval or assumes belonging. It shows in whether he fills every pause with noise or allows space to exist without anxiety. Silence terrifies men who have no internal order. Women feel this immediately, because insecurity is loud even when a man says nothing. This is why men who talk the most about dominance often possess the least of it. True status does not argue for recognition, it expects it. A man who must constantly prove his value is subconsciously admitting that he doubts it himself. Women respond not to claims but to coherence. They sense when a man's inner world is stable, when his actions align with his pace, when nothing about him feels rushed or borrowed. Self-command is the core signal. How a man handles frustration, rejection, or delay reveals more than charm ever could. A man who becomes irritated when he is not immediately rewarded is advertising dependence. A man who remains grounded when outcomes are uncertain communicates abundance. One feels fragile, the other feels dangerous. Attraction follows danger, not desperation. Status is also revealed in boundaries. A man with no boundaries is not kind, he is porous. He allows access to his time, energy, and attention without discretion. Women read this as low rank because high-value men protect what matters. They do not overextend. They do not overexplain. They do not chase clarity at the cost of dignity. Boundaries create shape, and shape creates desire. Observe how women respond to men who are centered versus men who are eager. The eager man mirrors, agrees, adapts too quickly. He believes flexibility will make him likable. Instead, it makes him disappear. The centered man does not rush to align. He listens, he decides. His agreement means something because it was not guaranteed. Women sense this weight instantly, even if they cannot articulate it. Machiavelli understood that perception precedes loyalty. A ruler who appears uncertain invites challenge. A man who appears uncertain invites disregard. This is not cruelty, it is instinct. Women are highly attuned to emotional and psychological key US because historically, choosing poorly carried consequences. They learn to read stability the way sailors read weather, quickly and without debate. Status is also reflected in how a man treats those who can offer him nothing. Respect for waiters, strangers, silence, and time itself signals inner order. Performative kindness collapses under observation. Authentic composure does not. Women notice the difference because composure cannot be faked for long. It is either built through discipline or absent entirely. Money, looks, and charm may open a door, but they do not hold attention. Self-command does. A man who controls his impulses controls the tone of every interaction. He does not overreact. He does not over-pursue. He does not collapse under ambiguity. This steadiness communicates that he has faced chaos before and was not consumed by it. When a man lacks self-command, his behavior fractures. He oscillates between confidence and insecurity. One moment bold, the next withdrawn. This inconsistency creates unease. Women feel it as emotional noise. They may not consciously reject him for it, but attraction erodes quietly because uncertainty is exhausting when it comes from weakness rather than mystery. The tragedy is that many men try to fix attraction with techniques while ignoring the source. They polish language while neglecting identity. But women are not responding to technique, they are responding to order. They are not drawn to performance, they are drawn to presence. Status is the echo of how a man lives when no one is watching, and that echo reaches the room before his voice does, before his smile does, before his intentions are revealed. Because long before words are spoken, the decision has already begun. Repetition is not neutral. What a man repeats becomes what he is, and what he is determines how the world treats him. Every repeated action carves a groove in identity, and identity, once shaped, resists change with ruthless efficiency. Men often believe they are collecting experiences, but in truth, experiences are collecting them, filing them down into something familiar, predictable, and easy to place. When behavior repeats without intention, it stops being choice and becomes script. The man wakes, seeks the same stimulation, follows the same urges, tells himself the same justifications. He believes consistency is stability, but there is a difference between discipline and loop. Discipline sharpens, loops dull, a disciplined routine expands capacity. An indulgent routine shrinks it while pretending to be comfort. Watch how repetition erases contrast. The first time carries intensity because it is unknown. The second time carries confidence. By the 10th time, it carries nothing. Meaning collapses under familiarity when familiarity is not earned through growth. The man mistakes comfort for peace, not realizing peace requires depth, while comfort requires only habit. Identity weakens when a man no longer surprises himself. Surprise signals growth. When every night ends the same way, When every desire leads to the same outlet, the man stops discovering who he could become. He becomes a pattern instead of a force. Patterns are useful, but they are not respected. They are managed. Society learns men through repetition. When a man shows up the same way every time, he teaches others how to treat him. Predictability low. Worse perceived value because value thrives on tension. Tension demands variation, edge, restraint, and timing. Remove these, and the man becomes easy to categorize. Once categorized, he is dismissed without ceremony. Machiavelli understood that reputation is built not on isolated acts, but on consistent signals. A ruler who repeats indulgence teaches his court that he can be waited out, distracted, softened. A man who repeats weakness teaches the world that he can be delayed, replaced, ignored. This lesson spreads quietly, through tone shifts, slower replies, less interest, fewer invitations. Repetition also trains emotional response. A man who repeatedly soothes discomfort with pleasure never learns to sit inside tension. He avoids the fire that forges presence. Over time, his tolerance for challenge drops. He grows impatient, irritable, bored. These traits are not personality, they are symptoms of underdeveloped capacity. The world feels heavier because he is lighter. Women, employers, rivals, and friends all sense this lightness. They feel it in how quickly a man seeks relief, how little resistance he offers to impulse, how fast he folds when friction appears. He may still speak confidently, but his confidence has no spine. Repetition without refinement hollows him out while leaving the surface intact. The cruel part is that repetition feels safe, it feels earned, it feels like control. But control that avoids risk is not control, it is avoidance dressed as freedom. A man who repeats the same indulgence is not exploring desire, he is circling it, afraid to step beyond the boundary of what he already knows how to survive. Weak identity is not loud, it does not annul itself with failure. It arrives as sameness, same reactions, same choices, same outcomes. The man wonders why nothing changes while he changes nothing that matters. He consumes stimulation but produces no momentum. His life becomes a closed system, recycling energy instead of generating it. Power requires asymmetry. It requires the ability to do what others cannot sustain. Repetition without challenge eliminates asymmetry. Everyone can repeat comfort. Few can repeat restraint. Few can repeat focus. Few can repeat self-command under pressure. Those few rise. The rest blend into the background. Not because they are incapable, but because they trained themselves to be ordinary through habit. When a man finally notices, it is not because someone confronts him. It is because silence grows around him. Fewer reactions, less tension, reduced impact. He speaks and the room does not shift. He arrives and nothing rearranges itself. This is the cost of becoming familiar to one's own impulses, of letting repetition decide identity instead of intention, of allowing routine to replace direction, of choosing what feels easy today over what would make him formidable tomorrow. And once that choice is repeated enough times, the man does not need to be rejected to be excluded. He has already trained the world to look past him. Now understand this clearly. None of this was about prostitutes, pleasure, or women. Those were only the surface symptoms. The real subject has always been power, and how quietly men surrender it without resistance. No one takes it from them. They hand it over in pieces, disguised as freedom, comfort, and entitlement. A man does not become insignificant all at once. He erodes. He trades discipline for relief, effort for access, self-command for indulgence, intention for repetition. Each trade feels small, each one feels harmless. But power is never lost dramatically. It leaks away through habits that feel justified at the time. Machiavelli understood that men fall not because they are attacked, but because they grow soft where vigilance was required. The modern man makes the same mistake, believing that desire fulfilled is strength, that access equals value, that presence can be performed, that repetition is stability. By the time he realizes the truth, his edge is gone, his mystery dissolved, his status quietly reassigned by the world around him. This is why some men are remembered, chosen, followed, and feared, while others are tolerated, used, and forgotten. The difference is not talent or luck. It is self-command, the ability to delay, the willingness to earn, the courage to resist becoming familiar to one's own weaknesses. The world does not reward men who seek comfort. It rewards men who can sit inside tension without breaking. Desire is not meant to rule you. Access is not meant to be free. Status is not meant to be claimed. Identity is not meant to be accidental. A man becomes dangerous again the moment he stops obeying every impulse, the moment he treats his time and attention as scarce, the moment he understands that power begins where discipline replaces appetite. Because the moment a man governs himself, the world adjusts its behavior toward him automatically, without explanation, without apology, without permission.